Alright, so if you guys have been wondering how to complete the special lockdown event on Dire Marsh, then this guide is for you. I'm going to quickly go through the steps on how to complete it, some tips I have along the way, and how you guys can farm this like a pro. I'm talking gold key cards, purple weapons, and more. So let's get into it. Alright, so lockdown events don't happen all the time, but when they do, you'll get a notification like this telling you where on the map you need to go to start the objective. And so in our instance, we had to travel to maintenance to start the first of three objectives to complete the lockdown event. And so this is where I'd recommend bringing a triage, because in order to enter the barrier, you're going to need to pop an antivirus kit. So it's nice if you just drop all your kits to the triage, and then he can just pop them all for you with his med drone. And then if you look here above your shield charge, you can get a feel as to how much time you have left on your antivirus kit before it expires. Or alternatively, you can look on the right hand side of your HUD, right above your weapons, and it'll tell you the exact time until it expires. So now that you know how to stay alive in the lockdown zone, you're going to want to look for these blue beacons and head to them. And since I've done this event a few times already, I noticed that the locations of these blue beacons seem to spawn in the same spot each time. I'm throwing up some clips now showing these blue beacon spawns for each of the POIs I've been to already. In the event you travel to these spots and can't find the beacon though, or are required to go to a POI not shown, you can always just look into the sky and find it yourself. Okay, so for how to start the objective, you're going to want to look along the ground for the lockdown drive, which you can use to interact with the beacon. Okay, so I wanted to mention one more mechanic to look out for, which has you interact with this data corruption terminal here. Unfortunately, I couldn't get specific footage for this, but all you're going to need to do is follow this blue icon on your screen, pick up the data pad it takes you to, and take it back to that terminal. Doing this lets you take down the lockdown barrier so that your teammates can enter the zone if you run out of antivirus kits. Just keep in mind that a loud sound will play when the barrier is taken down. It's kind of like burp, burp, burp. Yeah, man, I don't know what that was, but alright, so after starting the event, there's going to be 3 waves of UESC that you're going to need to take out to progress the objective. And one thing you can look to do while fighting the UESC is look to duck in and out of the lockdown zone so that you can limit the amount of decay towards your antivirus status effect. And I'll also recommend putting one person in your squad on Defender, because in my opinion his prime/ult ability is the best at countering the UESC compared to the other runner shells. Defender's ult is essentially a DPS increase to your squad, which allows you to complete the objective much faster, which is super important for reasons you'll see ahead. And so after you kill all the UESC, the lockdown zone will disappear, and you'll be able to safely loot the security cache in the middle of the beacon. And so with that all done, you're going to want to loot the unfinished lockdown drive from the cache, and wait for the next lockdown event to begin. So just like the first event, you'll get an alert telling you where on the map the next lockdown ship will spawn. Then just follow the same steps as before. And then once again, you can just loot the key, and then wait for the third and final event to begin. So the loot from the final cache is definitely the best. I've seen it drop purple weapons, purple backpacks, and even purple cores, as well as this gold key. It may be hard to tell because I was rushing to put this thing in my backpack, but it seems like this is a key for Cryo Archive. Now we'll have to see if this is a key for Cryo Archive when the full game comes out, but it's my guess that by completing the lockdown activity, you'll be able to farm repeatedly for this key. And I have noticed it one other time in one of my runs. So it seems like this is a definitive way to get this key. Now what's really unfortunate is that I managed to die on our way out because we just ran out of time. And actually so did my teammates, which is kind of weird because they were in the bubble to extract. But anyways, that's why I mentioned earlier that you're going to need to save as much time as you can when doing each of the 3 events. So like you could bring extra ammo so you don't have to restock, or position towards the center of the map when you complete each event so that you can quickly rotate to the next objective and save travel time. And then you could also just have 1 or 2 of your teammates on destroyer so that you can use his ult on the UESC. And by the way, keep in mind that you're not alone inside the map. If your squad is proficient at PvP, it may be in your best interest to just clear as many teams as you can in the first half of the raid. That way you can make sure you don't get ratted on, or you can have extra time to rotate in case you get caught up in a fight or something. And on the other hand, if your squad isn't that comfortable PvPing multiple teams at once, you could try to lay low for the first half of the raid, and then you could just pop out and move to the first objective. And so one last thing I wanted to mention when farming this event is that when the first lockdown objective spawns, it can be at like a random time in raid. So sometimes you're going to have to make a judgment call when the third objective spawns whether or not to go for it. Sometimes the final exfil will be very close to that final location, meaning you'll have just enough time to complete the event and get out. And so with that, I hope you guys now know how to do the lockdown event, farm it efficiently, farm it like a champ, and get some good loot. Alright, and when the full game releases, look out for more guides on the different events that might come out. And until next time.